Well, good morning, Stillwater. Welcome to April 1st. Now, some people call it April Fool's Day. I wonder if that's why Jason had me do this first devotion. Well, I'll figure that out later. Anyhow, it's April 1st, and it is the first day of the month, and we're going to start this journey through the book of Proverbs. Oh, it's an exciting thing. It's in this book that we learn about what true wisdom is. We learn who the wise are, we learn who the fools are, we learn who the simple are, who the mockers are, and what God has to say about all this. It's really an important book. I want us to see that today is that day. Proverbs, I hope that you will take the time today to read chapter 1. I hope, in fact, that you'd actually read it as a family and that the whole family would gather together, read chapter 1, and as you read that, ask questions, talk about it. It's an important thing to do. You see, do you want wisdom? Do you need understanding? I know I do. And I hope that you will join me as we read this book, this chapter 1 together. You know, as a teenager, I loved this book. Yes, I did. In fact, I would actually go to my dad after lunch on Sunday afternoons, and I'd go through this because there were sayings in here I just could not figure out. And I wanted some help. What does this mean? And anyhow, it was a good time, had a good meal with Dad, and got to talk about this. Because you see, I learned it's here that it says, better to sit on the corner of a rooftop than in a house with a quarrelsome woman. And I'm blessed to say that I have not had to sleep on the corner of a rooftop. I have had to sleep on the corner of the bed because of cold feet. I'm not going to name any names. But anyhow, it's good stuff in this book, how important it is to learn about quarreling. There's other things that it says there, things like an anxious heart weighs a man down. That's the truth. But it also goes on to say, but a kind word cheers him up. Perhaps today you needed to hear that and to pick up the phone and to cheer somebody up. In this book it says that a generous man will prosper. He who refreshes others will himself be refreshed. And man, I just can't tell you enough how important this book is for today, for this time. So will you join me? Will you read this together? And we can just grow together. I'm going to tell you, this book changed the trajectory of my life. I wanted to learn wisdom. I wanted to grow. And I wanted to practice what's in this book. It's full of wisdom. It's full of practical living advice. So let's dig in. Let me get it out here. And let's read here a little bit together. For it says, the Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel. Okay, now we know who wrote the book. That's great. What else does it say? For attaining wisdom and discipline, for understanding words of insight. I want that. For acquiring a disciplined and prudent life, doing what is right and just and fair. I need that. For giving prudence to the simple, knowledge and discretion to the young. That's me, young. Now, Zach, I know you think differently, but I think I'm young. It goes on to say, let the wise listen and add to their learning, and let the discerning get guidance. For understanding proverbs and parables, the sayings and riddles of the wise. Now it gets to the very first proverb here in the book, verse 7. It simply says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and discipline. It's important for us to see this is the beginning of wisdom, right here, the fear of the Lord. Do you trust the Lord? You see, that's the basis. That's where it starts. Recognizing who He is and following Him. That's the beginning of knowledge. I hope today that you can say that's where your starting point is. If not, perhaps you should go to Him. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. It goes on in verse 8 to say, listen, my son, to your father's instructions. Do not forsake your mother's teaching. They will be a garland to grace your head and a chain to adorn your neck. It's telling us we need to listen today. Will you? Will you read this book, this chapter today? And parents, will you see that both mom and dad are important and that you will speak up and speak wisdom into your kid's life? Today's the day. Let's read Proverbs chapter 1 together. Go.